My mom removed my 7-year-old daughter as the flower girl at my sister's wedding after a wealthy guest offered to donate $10,000 if their granddaughter took the role instead. My daughter cried for days. At the wedding reception, I finally told everyone what really happened. Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Lawson. I'm 35 years old, and the hardest conversation I've ever had wasn't with my parents. It wasn't with my sister. It was with my 7-year-old daughter. She climbed into my lap, held her tiny flower basket against her chest, looked up at me with tears in her eyes, and whispered, "Mom, was I not pretty enough?" I felt my heart break. "No, sweetheart." Then, why doesn't Aunt Lily want me anymore? I pulled her into my arms, because there wasn't a gentle way to explain that she hadn't been replaced because she'd done anything wrong. She'd been replaced because someone else came with $10,000. 2 weeks later, as wedding guests laughed over champagne and dessert, I stood up in front of everyone because my daughter deserved the truth. Looking back, Lily had always been my daughter's favorite person. My younger sister was 5 years younger than me. She was energetic, funny, the kind of aunt every child adored. Whenever Lily visited, my daughter Charlotte followed her everywhere. Tea parties, cookie baking, nail polish, princess movies. Charlotte loved every second. When Lily got engaged, Charlotte squealed louder than anyone. "Can I come to the wedding?" Lily laughed. "Come, I need you. I want you to be my flower girl." Charlotte screamed with excitement. For nearly 3 months, everything in our house revolved around that wedding. She practiced walking slowly down the hallway, scattering flower petals, holding her tiny basket carefully. She even made her father sit on the couch, pretending to be wedding guests, while she practiced smiling. Every night before bed, she asked, "How many more days?" My husband smiled every single time. "Not many now." Lily took Charlotte shopping for her flower girl dress. She let her choose tiny white shoes, a matching headband, even a little bracelet. Charlotte carefully hung the dress inside her bedroom closet. She refused to let anyone touch it. Sometimes, I'd catch her quietly opening the closet door, just to admire it. It became her greatest treasure. Then, exactly 1 week before the wedding, Mom called. Her voice sounded strangely nervous. "Emma, we need to talk." Immediately, I knew something was wrong. "What happened?" "It's about Charlotte." "What about her?" Mom sighed. "There have been some changes." I frowned. "What changes?" There was a long silence. Finally, "The flower girl is going to be someone else." Everything inside me froze. "What?" Mom spoke quickly. "A family friend offered a very generous wedding gift." "I don't understand." "They wanted their granddaughter included. So, they suggested their granddaughter become flower girl." I stared at the wall. "And Lily agreed?" Another silence. "Yes." "How much?" Mom hesitated. "I don't think that matters." "It matters. $10,000. The room became completely quiet. "You're telling me my daughter lost her place because someone paid for it?" Mom immediately interrupted. "Don't say it like that." "How should I say it?" "It was just practical." I laughed once, a short, disbelieving laugh. "For who?" Mom sighed. "Please don't make this harder." "Harder?" "My 7-year-old daughter has spent months believing she's part of this wedding. We'll buy her another present." I closed my eyes. "You honestly think this is about presents?" Mom didn't answer, because she already knew. That evening, Lily came to our house. She looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry." I waited. I didn't know what else to do. I quietly asked, "So, $10,000 mattered more than Charlotte?" She immediately shook her head. "No, it isn't like that." "What is it like?" "The wedding is expensive." "I know. I just thought she'd understand." I looked toward Charlotte's bedroom. "She's 7. Lily lowered her head. "I know." Then came the hardest part. Charlotte ran downstairs, smiling. "Aunt Lily." She hugged her, then asked the question no adult should ever have to answer. "When do we practice again?" Lily immediately started crying. She knelt beside Charlotte. "Sweetheart, another little girl is going to be flower girl." Charlotte frowned. "Why?" Lily couldn't answer. Instead, she looked at me, hoping I'd rescue her. I didn't. Finally, Charlotte whispered, "Did I do something bad?" My wife, no, my husband Daniel, quietly picked her up before I could answer. He carried her upstairs, while she cried into his shoulder. For the next several nights, she slept holding that little flower basket. She refused to let me put it away. One evening, I found her standing in front of the closet, still looking at the dress. She quietly asked, "Can I still wear it someday?" I hugged her. "Absolutely." She nodded, then whispered, "I don't think Aunt Lily loves me anymore." That sentence hurt more than anything my family had done to me. The wedding day finally arrived. Daniel asked one last time, We don't have to go. I looked at Charlotte. She smiled bravely. You should still go, Mom. I'll stay with Grandma Susan. My mother-in-law hugged her tightly. We'll have our own special day. Charlotte smiled, but I could see the sadness in her eyes. Daniel stayed home with Charlotte. I attended alone. The ceremony was beautiful. The replacement flower girl walked down the aisle wearing the dress Charlotte had once dreamed about. I kept smiling, because ruining the ceremony wouldn't help my daughter. Then came the reception. People gathered around our table. Several guests smiled at me. One woman quietly asked, "Where's Charlotte?" Before I could answer, another guest laughed. Oh, Lily told everyone Charlotte decided she didn't want to be flower girl anymore. I slowly looked across the ballroom, toward my mother, toward Lily. Both of them heard the conversation. Neither corrected it. That's when I realized they hadn't just broken my daughter's heart. They had lied to protect themselves. I quietly stood from my chair, picked up my glass, and walked toward the microphone. Sometimes, the cruelest lies aren't the ones people tell to hurt you. They're the ones they tell to protect themselves after they've already hurt a child. As I reached for the microphone, and every conversation inside the ballroom slowly faded into silence, I realized it was finally time to tell everyone why my daughter had never walked down that aisle. The ballroom slowly fell silent. Every conversation stopped. The band lowered its instruments. I stood beside the microphone. My hands weren't shaking. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply done pretending. I smiled politely. "I'm sorry for interrupting. I only need a minute." Lily looked at me from the head table. Her smile disappeared. Mom immediately stood. "Emma?" I gently raised my hand. "Please? You've had a week to explain. I'd like 60 seconds. The room became completely silent. I looked around. So many of you have asked me today why my daughter isn't here. I've heard several people say she changed her mind about being flower girl. I paused. That isn't true. Across the room, Mom's face turned pale. Lily slowly lowered her eyes. I continued. My daughter didn't quit. She wasn't sick. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't misbehaving. 1 week ago, she was replaced. Quiet whispers spread across the ballroom. I continued calmly. A family friend generously offered a $10,000 wedding gift if their granddaughter became the flower girl. I looked toward Lily, and my sister accepted. The room went completely still. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. I wasn't finished. My daughter spent 3 months practicing. She picked out her dress. She counted the days. She believed walking down that aisle was one of the biggest moments of her little life. I swallowed hard. Then she asked me one question. "Mom, was I not pretty enough?" Several guests immediately covered their mouths. One older woman quietly wiped away tears. I looked around the room. I didn't stand up today to embarrass my sister. I stood up because a 7-year-old little girl deserves better than having adults lie about why her heart was broken. Then I quietly placed the microphone back on its stand. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the evening. I turned to leave. Before I reached the ballroom doors, someone called out, "Wait." It was the elderly couple who had offered the donation. The grandfather slowly stood. His face looked horrified. He looked toward Lily. "We never asked you to remove another child." The entire room turned toward him. He continued, "We simply offered a donation. Top if our granddaughter could participate somewhere in the wedding." His wife nodded. "We suggested handing out programs or carrying the guest book. We had no idea another little girl was already your flower girl." The silence became almost unbearable. Everyone slowly looked toward Lily. Her eyes filled with tears. I thought." The elderly woman interrupted gently. "If we had known, we never would have accepted." She reached into her purse, removed an envelope, placed it on the gift table. "We're withdrawing the donation." The room erupted into whispers. Mom grabbed Lily's hand. "Say something." Lily stood, crying openly now. "I made the decision. Mom told me, or we needed the money." Every eye turned toward my mother. She looked completely frozen. "I only suggested." Lily shook her head. "No. You told me our family would understand." Dad slowly stood from his chair. For the first time all evening, he spoke. "No, they shouldn't." He looked at me, then quietly whispered, "I'm ashamed." The wedding coordinator walked over. She looked at Lily. "If you'd like, so we can delay the father-daughter dance for a few minutes." Lily slowly nodded. "No, I need to do something first." She hurried across the ballroom, stopped in front of me, then hugged me tightly. "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking." I kept telling myself she was just a child, and she'd forget. I quietly answered, "Children remember broken promises much longer than adults do." She cried harder. I know that now." I gently hugged her back. "I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't erase what happened." She nodded. I understand. Epilogue. It's been 3 years since that wedding. Charlotte is 10 now. She still has the tiny white flower basket. Only now, it sits on a shelf in her bedroom beside a framed photograph. Not from Lily's wedding, but from another ceremony. 1 year later, my best friend got married. She asked Charlotte to be her flower girl. Not because she needed one, because she knew the story. She told Charlotte, "No one else could possibly take your place." Charlotte walked down that aisle smiling from ear to ear. When the ceremony ended, every guest stood and applauded, not because she scattered flower petals perfectly, because joy had finally replaced heartbreak. As for Lily, she spent a long time rebuilding her relationship with Charlotte. She never again made promises she couldn't keep. The elderly couple quietly donated the same $10,000 to a children's charity in Charlotte's name. When we received the certificate, Charlotte looked at me and smiled. "So another little girl gets something happy." Yes, I like that better. Sometimes, children teach adults how to be generous. My thoughts. Looking back, the most painful part wasn't that my daughter lost the role of flower girl. It was watching adults convince themselves that a child's feelings could simply be replaced with money, gifts, or excuses. Children don't measure love by expensive presents. They measure it by promises kept. The day I stood up at that reception wasn't about ruining a wedding. It was about making sure my daughter never grew up believing she should stay silent when someone treated her as less important than money.